Hello and welcome to Arsenal Women's Roundtable in association with MasterCard. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Batson. For this roundtable, we're going to hear from some key Arsenal legends, some first team players. We're going to talk about their football journeys and how women's football is growing nationally and internationally. Plus, some fans will get their chance to put their questions to our very special guests. Speaking of very special guests, I'm delighted to say that we are joined by three former Arsenal captains and, may I say, all-round legends of the game, Kelly Smith, Faye White and MasterCard ambassador Alex Scott. How are you doing, ladies?
Very well, thank you.
Good stuff.
Good to see everyone again.
Like a mini reunion.
Isn't it just? And if that wasn't enough, alongside our legends, we've got three current first team stars, Leah Williamson, Beth Mead and Anna Patton. How are you, ladies?
Good, thanks.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone.
Well, so let's get straight into it. We're going to talk about your journeys, first of all. I'm going to come to Leah and Anna. Leah, let's start with you. Former academy player, what was that first day like being at the academy?
I tried to get back in the car when I had to get out and go into the training centre. It was at Highbury and I was going for a trial. So got out of the car, took one look at all the girls and then just walked straight back in. And at the time, Tessa Payne, she was the academy director and my coach. She just grabbed me at the last second, basically. And my mum encouraged her to take me away. And then thank God she did, because never looked back. But yeah, it was daunting, you know. I'm an Arsenal fan as well. So you turn up, I'm at Highbury, everybody's in the kit. I'm in, I don't even know what I was wearing, but it's probably a kit of past season or whatever, trying to fit in. So it was daunting, but like I say, glad she grabbed my arm and didn't let me get back in the car.
Was that the same for you as well, Anna? Those first feelings of nervousness, feeling worried, daunted, or were you excited and you just wanted to get going?
Yeah, no, I was definitely really excited. I can remember the first thing that I got to do after I made it into Arsenal was meet up at the Emirates for like the induction day that they have in the academy. And you had this talk from John Bayer, who was the technical director when I joined, and he was like, this is how you can transition into the first team and all of this. And I was just blown away by just being at the Emirates and then this whole meeting that we had. And then to top it all off, you got this big bag of Arsenal kit. And again, being an Arsenal fan at the time, it was literally like Christmas Day. So yeah, a lot of excitement on my first day. It was probably like a bit of an easier transition into a team than me.
I've got to ask you, Anna, what did you do with all that stuff that they gave you in the bag?
I can remember putting on almost like a little fashion show when I got back. And putting on all the different kits and this is a tracksuit, this is a training kit. No, I just loved it.
Oh, amazing stuff. Beth, slightly different from you. You joined Arsenal from Sunderland. How did you find out that the Gunners wanted to sign you?
I actually got a phone call from Pedro at the time. They wanted to sign me a year earlier, but I think, I was enjoying life at Sunderland in my first season with them. And, I was playing regularly and I thought maybe getting that experience playing regularly at the top flight was probably what I needed at that time. And then, I jumped at the chance eventually when I knew it was right for me to come to Arsenal. And like Leah probably said, for academy, it was probably one of the best decisions I made as a footballer to come to this club.
And that first day when you were joining the team, how were you feeling, Beth?
It was a weird one for me because I actually signed when I was injured. Alex will probably know this because she was doing a lot of running with me at the time. But no, I was really excited to be there. It was a bit surreal for me, but a little bit of a bittersweet one that I couldn't train and, show everyone what I was about when I first signed.
Leah, for you, it's been a few milestones for you getting to wear the captain's armband earlier this year, your 150th appearance across all competitions for the Gunners. How do you reflect on that period of time, that where you started from, coming from the academy and then ending up wearing the captain's armband?
Yeah, I think there's a video that was posted after the game and I was quite emotional, which I wouldn't say I was embarrassed about, but it's hard because only a few people, and luckily they've all sort of come out of Arsenal. Like we had so many long-serving players that I followed and I'm following in their footsteps, but it's a rarity, isn't it, for anybody to be able to play for their club for so long, just circumstantially anyway. It was nice. It's nice to tick boxes that you always want to as a child. You always think, oh, I'll just do this, and you always just think, I'll I'll play for Arsenal, I'll play for England, and you just think it will happen. And then obviously along the way, it becomes a lot more difficult than that. So to actually just, to achieve something like that, and have a day where you can sort of reflect and be proud, it meant a lot to me. But yeah, it's no secret how much it means to me and my family, obviously, and I'm not very good at hiding it either, and a bit soppy, but I couldn't help it. It was nice to, especially in these times, just to achieve something like that, I suppose. But yeah, it's all nice.
It's also nice that on this round table you've got 3 former Arsenal captains as well. That must have been huge inspiration for you, knowing that Alex has been a captain, Faye's been a captain, Kelly's been a captain.
Yeah, 100%. I wear Faye's number now. I'm very aware of the footsteps that I follow in. Obviously, I was captained by Alex and Kelly, so it's special for me. One of the big things that I always wanted to do was get into the first team as quick as possible to play with these guys, my heroes at the time. So to be able to do that and then be influenced by them as well so directly, for them to actually captain me, it's special. But yeah, it's not an easy. I keep saying following in their footsteps, but it's not easy when the people that are leading the way are those guys. So it's nice to be in such good company, I suppose. But yeah, I'm very aware of what's come before me, and I respect that a lot.
You talk about England appearances. Faye, I'll come to you. I think you're recognised as probably the longest serving England captain. How do you reflect on that?
Well, with pride. I think, like Leah said, actually, it's not until afterwards, when you're not there doing it anymore, that you actually, when you've retired or hung up your boots, that you actually appreciate what you actually did and achieved, I suppose, and reflect on it. Because when you're in it, you just want to do the next thing and hit the next goal and try and push the game on further. But yeah, to captain Arsenal and England for over 10 years was something which was so proud, and a pride moment. And I think Leah's touched on it already, saying that I played, I think it was nearly 10 or 16 years at Arsenal in that number shirt. And I remember when she was going to be given it was almost like, well, that you could see Leah being a young player coming all the way through the club, through the academy and the centre of excellence, etc., and then going on to the first team, and said, I want you to be able to wear it for much longer than I ever did, because that's how long it would be amazing if she could stay at the club, because of what the type of player she was going to grow into. I think everyone was quite clear that she would be a future captain. So for her to actually have lived up to that expectation, because I think that's the thing we forget. We probably didn't have that when we were younger. Well, certainly wasn't playing in a centre of excellence team when I was 8 or 9. So for them to have that, and like you said, the expectation of people that have come before, she's hit a lot of targets even before being made captain. So yeah, it's good to see the kind of longevity that she's had at the club. But yeah, it was one that I had so much pride and loved, just being part of what was such a forward-thinking club that supported the women's game.
Yeah, absolutely. And just coming to you, actually, just back to Leah and Kelly, that famous picture of the two of you, Leah in your younger years, Kelly in her younger years as well. I saw that. I saw it on social media, and I just thought, that's amazing. That I like the line. Last night, the dream became reality. The picture of you two together, and then Leah standing touchside with the former England coach Phil Neville. It just emphasises what journey Leah has been on.
Yeah, massive journey. And I think, Leah should be very proud of herself. I know her family are too. She's so humble. She just gets her head down and works really, really hard. And I certainly enjoyed playing with her and leading by example the way I used to lead. But she's got a great future ahead of her already, an established England international. There's many, many caps that are milestones she can reach. I never want to see her leave Arsenal Football Club. She's a Gooner through and through. The only time that myself and Alex Alex left a couple of times, I left a couple of times, but I never wanted to play for another club. I was Arsenal through and through, and fortunate enough, Vic Akers at the time had me back on both occasions. I went to America on two stints. So yeah, I know Leah's very Arsenal through and through. I know her dad's an Arsenal, a Spurs fan, so I don't know how that actually happened, but Yeah, no, that picture circulates a lot on social media, and it always makes me smile, seeing a little young aspiring footballer like Leah wanting to play for England, wanting to play for Arsenal, and she's living her dream right now, and it's really a real pleasure to see. And obviously knowing Leah for a good few years, and seeing her develop and grow as a player, it's brilliant.
And it's something you've talked about, actually, when you joined Arsenal. You said you joined because of Thierry Henry, Faye White, Kelly Smith. They make you fall in love with the game. Why did you come say that?
Well, yeah, obviously I was a huge Arsenal fan growing up and everything. And it's amazing that I'm even in this Zoom call right now with legends like Kelly Smith, Faye White and Alex and everyone. I used to watch as many Arsenal games as I could, men's or females, and they captains of Arsenal, captains of England, like what more can you look up to, really?
And you've had a similar journey because you've played out in the US, same to Alex, same to Kelly as well. Alex, can you just briefly talk about your experience in the US and how you think you kind of created that pathway? The same with Kelly, actually, about other players going out in the States.
Well, I think it was at a time when we had won absolutely everything with Arsenal. We were consistent at winning every piece of silverware. We'd just come back off the World Cup in 2007 when all the talk was about the Pro League starting in America. And then so to even be drafted and have that opportunity, we were still only semi-professional here, as much as we were trying to push the game to the highest standards. I knew that, yes, I was a starting right back for England, but ultimately my goal was I wanted to be the best right back. So to go and surround yourself with the best of the best players all in one league, it was a chance that I couldn't turn down. And I look back at those 3 years, they were the most, amazing 3 years that I had, being in a different team, a different culture, learning the American mentality and not having to apologize for actually wanting to be the best, because that was the Americans' mindset. And I think it taught me so much. It taught me so many leadership skills that I brought back when I came back to Arsenal. I grew as a person as well. People could see the difference in me. So it just pushed my game on to different levels, which I loved, which helped the England environment. I think the whole of us going over to, because obviously with Kelly, it was Anita at the time, Leanne Sarnison, Eni, Katie Chapman. There was a whole bulk of us. And I think that elevated us all coming back into the national team as well.
And Anna, when that call came to say, fancy coming back across the pond, come and play for the Gunners, how did you react?
Yeah, if I'm honest, it was quite an easy decision, really. I was so happy to know that Arsenal wanted me back after my amazing experience out in America also. So yeah, just honoured, really.
And Beth, for you, making that decision to come to Arsenal, what do you think those years at Sunderland gave you that you were able to use in your time, those first few months at Arsenal?
I mean, yeah, Arsenal were a club that, like Alex said earlier, they won a lot of things. And at Sunderland, not that Arsenal didn't work, we had to work, super hard. We didn't have the facilities. We were training on a 3G college pitch somewhere. And although it was a luxury when I came to Arsenal, I knew how hard it was to kind of overcome certain barriers, couldn't you say? To kind of be playing at the best level I could be at that time. And like Alex said, she went away to America to better herself. And I knew by coming to Arsenal, it was a new challenge and another way of bettering myself by surrounding myself by, international players from all over the world. So it was a no-brainer for me to do that, to make myself better as a player.
I want to move it on to the legends and ask about their playing days at Arsenal. Faye, I'll come to you first. What's your, can you think of any favourite memories, keep them clinicals, of playing at Arsenal?
Well, I think it's the first thing I remember really is when I first joined the club, and a lot of the training sessions were actually at Highbury. So I used to get on a train for 2.5 hours from where I'd lived to get up to London, and then we'd knock on the marble doors to go and sit in the changing rooms where Tony Adams and Vieira and Henry would have sat, and then get out on the little run round track that's literally around the Highbury pitch. And then so that's how we used to train. We used to do our aerobic work first there, running laps around this horseshoes, we used to call them, against each other in pairs. And then we used to go up in the stands to do the stair work, which was more explosive power work right up in the high, steep stairwells at Highbury. And then after that, I think it's about 45 minutes of fitness work, so to speak, sometimes in the concourses as well in the stadium, doing some sprint work, which most of the time I never won because I was a defender. It was always the forwards beating me, trying to, keep up with them. And then we would go into this ball court to play football. And that was like an hour of football of like 5-a-side, quick little, 1 and 2 touch football. So we never actually, for the first, I think probably 5, even longer years, that was their training routine when I first joined in 96 as like a 17-year-old. So that was once a week I used to do. And then sometimes I could manage traveling up twice a week. But those were the kind of memories of what our training sessions were like. But I used to love that hour of football because it was so quick and fast, but we never actually played on an 11-a-side pitch. Yet we would go out on a Sunday and just, to be strong enough and good enough to beat the teams in our league. But yeah, and obviously other memories like traveling on the buses. We were very fortunate then, even back then, to travel on the first team buses with microwaves and Sky Sports and stuff on the bus, whereas I'd come from a club where we used to go onto the pitch and put the nets up before we'd play football, so it's a massive contrast. But yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of good memories. And then, sometimes playing at Highbury, we got to play some games at Highbury. Remember winning the league against Fulham one year there when Vieira, Wenger, we'd played after the men, so they were all sat up in the stands watching us. Sol Campbell at the time, I think it was, and Henry and that as well. I think they'd beaten Everton, if my memory, if it's serving me right.
Was that quite daunting?
No, it was great. It was a great experience, to play on those pitches. We were quite fortunate. Most years we'd have one game, either at Highbury or when we moved to the Emirates Stadium. So yeah, those kind of, and at that time though, we were probably the only club that were able to have that and do that. So yeah, it was quite, obviously you knew you were so privileged, but to play in those kind of environments, and to have that, but yet now compare it to what the players and they have now is complete contrast, isn't it? So but then, and also memories of like open top bus parades when the men and the women had won each year. And we were sharing that, experience back in 2004, I think it was, and maybe 2002. I've got to try and remember now when the men won the Premier League and the FA Cups as well. And yeah, it was sometimes nice because they'd have 1 or 2 trophies and then we'd have like 3 or 4, from the ladies' point of view. So yeah, it was our chance to, show that the club were very much equal in supporting the men and the women at that time when, women's football wasn't really viewed like it is now.
Kelly, just picking up on Faith's point, she talks about how forward thinking the club was back then. How forward thinking was it in your day?
Well, Arsenal were always the best team in England. They had the best players. We used to get a big bundle of kit and I just loved it. Being an Arsenal fan, I couldn't wait to get home and try it on and look in the mirror and see how good I looked. Just wearing that Arsenal crest was just, the bee's knees for me. But there was always a forward-thinking club right from the get-go. I remember Vic Akers signing me. He took me, like Faye said, to the marble halls at the Highbury, walking into the doors and meeting Arsene Wenger, meeting Ian Wright, who was my hero at the time. And I was just in awe of this place, this club. I couldn't believe that I was so lucky to be representing the club that I'd supported. And yeah, they always wanted to help the women out and support them. And even from that era, they've obviously been a forward-thinking club for the best club for as long as I can remember, and long may it continue.
Alex, I want to move it on to the talk of the narrative that we have nowadays about inspiring the next generation. That's been the big thing over the last, I'd say, 5 years or so. And we know that we want to encourage more young girls to play the game, whether it's professionally or even just for fun. But what are your thoughts about actually more women working outside the game, but at senior level, like at FIFA and UEFA?
That is so important, to make the correct decisions, to influence people in the right direction. I think I've been around a lot of the FIFA meetings, there's a pool of FIFA legends that I've been with for a number of years now. And just to when I first joined that, I think there were 3 of us on the FIFA legends. And as of like last year, now there's basically a squad, because they're saying, you know, there's more than 2 players, there's more than 2 women's names that have done stuff in the game. So even having influences like that to go into those meetings to try and say, well, actually, this tournament's coming up in the World Cup, this is what's required. Because at the same time, we're taking baby steps every year. We need to keep making sure. We don't need to get to a place where, oh, women's football's doing great, it's attracting the crowds, and everyone thinks we're at a standstill because, you know, the Women's World Cup got 11 million viewers on the BBC. No, it's to keep pushing it forward. And so you need to have those women's in all those right places to say, okay, we're good, but we can still get better.
And also, just to follow up on that, Alex, about pushing the boundaries more, the demand now to have better pitches, the talk about having full-time referees, and also encouraging young girls and women, if they don't necessarily get the opportunity to play on the pitch, that there's opportunities off the pitch, whether it's in physiotherapy, sports nutrition, psychology, media, for example. It's important that we keep saying that there are opportunities right across the industry, not necessarily just on the pitch.
It's huge, and if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? So yes, we're now pushing the Lionesses, the Arsenal, the games are on TV, but we also need to showcase that there are other women in other positions and talk about that. So you don't have to be at an elite level, you can still be involved in elite sport in different ways, and that's hugely important because, like you said, more female representation is needed all round.
And talking about representation, I just want to talk very briefly about the captaincy, because we've got 3 captains with us, so it'll be an opportunity to talk about that. Faye, how did you find out you were going to be captaining the team?
Well, obviously Vic Cakers at the time was the manager, and I just actually a week or 2 had been made captain for England beforehand. So I don't know if it was always in his plan or not, or whether he just thought, well, she's now a captain England, maybe we need to move her on here. But no, he just pulled me aside about a week, I think it was, before he'd actually told the team, just to say, I'm going to make you captain, because Sian Williams was the captain before me, and she'd been obviously doing an amazing job leading the team, for many a year, I think, quite similar, I think nearly 10 years before that. So I think it was quite a bit of a big transition, because Sian was still in the team at the time and was still playing. So it was, quite a weird feeling as a young player then to kind of have to take that role with the player that's already still in the squad, still playing. So, but yeah, it was fine. And it was just obviously an honour. But yeah, there was talk, I remember Vic had told me, and then there was talk about the captains changing within the dressing room, and obviously it was hard not to say anything because it wasn't my position to say, well, I think it's me, kind of thing. So, but then it was announced, and obviously really proud moment. And I just, once I realised there was an Arsenal team, and that was really only back in, I think it was 94, when I remember watching in England in the World Cup in Sweden, I think it was late on BBC. I think they showed a highlight package of a couple of minutes of England women representing their country in that World Cup, and then I found out that there was an Arsenal team as well. So I would have only been about 15 or 16, I think. So once I knew that, and Arsenal was so good and so dominant even then, and so not really dominant on the field, but more off the field and what they were doing in supporting the women's game, that's what I was so impressed with. So once they said they wanted me and I joined, and then within a few years to be made captain as well, it was at such a young age, obviously a dream, because I never thought, oh, I want to be captain of England or Arsenal. It was just, I want to play this game because I love it. And, that was the drive to start with. But yeah, it's a great honour, and I feel fortunate to be among great names and the girls that have taken it on since then and taken the game to new heights as well. So yeah, it's lovely to be part of.
What did it mean to you, Kelly, to become the captain of Arsenal?
Yeah, same as Faye. Just pride, joy to wear that armband, to lead the team out game after game was just so special, because, as I said before, big Arsenal fan. You can't really put it into words unless you've gone through it, I guess. It's just like Leah would know, Alex would know, Faye would know. It's just the pride that you feel. My family, my dad was a big supporter of mine. He was at every home game. For England, he would always travel abroad to watch me play. So just pride to always wear that captain's armband. And you know what, I was a different captain to Faye. Faye was all about the dressing room and encouraging and very talkative and demanding of players on the pitch, very vocal. Whereas I probably wouldn't say too much. I would just lead by example on the pitch and with my energy and my enthusiasm and training. So yeah, just a massive amount of pride to represent the club.
What type of captain were you, Alex? Were you the one shouting on the pitch, or were you the person who was like leading by example like Kelly, or none of the above?
I don't know. I think the three below me, Beth, Anna and Leah, will be best off to describe that. But I don't know. It's hard. I think I never saw myself as a captain or a leader, if I'm honest. I was brought up in an Arsenal environment since the age of 8. And I don't think anyone ever saw me in that way or spoke to me, certainly, that I'd be seen as that or in a role like that. And I talk about my time in America. It's not till I went over there that they believed that I had leadership skills and we had a leadership group. And I think my personality and my real character started to come out. I know Kelly was part of that leadership group at Boston as well. And so I only think when I came back over to England and to Arsenal, and then obviously Kelly was captain, it's not till Kelly left, then I then took on that responsibility. And I say the word responsibility because that's what it is. And I think for me, I still didn't see myself, even though I was wearing the armband, I was very much, everyone knows that I absolutely love the club and it's family to me where I grew up. And it was always wanting to put the team first and make sure everyone had a voice, because I felt, looking back, that I was scared to voice my opinions because we had this idea of what a leader should be back then, that it's the loudest one. And like Kelly said, she was very different and I was very different. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone felt that they had a voice. And ultimately, when I was making a decision, everyone knew it was for the team and not for myself.
Let's do a quick Q&A with our special guests. I'm going to go to the players first, Leah, Beth and Anna. Between the three of you, this is going to be interesting. Who is the dressing room DJ?
It's actually an easy one because Leah is the dressing room DJ, so yeah. Quite easy for us.
What tunes do you choose, Leah? Give us a couple of examples.
The crowd pleaser.
Oh yeah, I am a crowd pleaser. I know what the girls like, and then just try and I don't know, get us pumped in the best way with everybody enjoying. But mostly it's just giving something that Lisa Evans can dance to, and then she picks up the dressing room. She's the clown. She's the one that gets everybody smiling. But there's pressure on this because Alex did a handover to me. She did a nice little transitional passing on of the title DJ to me. So I know that I've got to deliver now. Yeah.
You're delivering. You make me very proud. The tunes that she picks, and like you said, it's about keeping everyone else happy and getting the environment. And Leah does that. I know she does.
That's a proper DJ. That's a proper DJ for sure. Okay, Kelly, Faye, and Alex. Who was the person who stayed around for extra training sessions?
I think we all would, wouldn't we?
Behind, yeah, we were getting kicked out of the facility.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, in our day, we only had a certain amount of time. Yeah.
But Alex and I would always get to training early, even at Boston. I remember this, we'd get there early because we were so eager to get there and meet, get all the banter with the girls and that, and take ourselves out early to do extra work on our first touch, our passing. We used to set cones down, do a little warm up, and then just work on, moving the ball from left to right, pinging it in to me and Al. And yeah, I think getting there earlier was more of a statement than staying behind because we weren't really allowed to do it at Arsenal.
Do you know what, actually, I was on a run this morning and I was thinking back to time knowing that we were doing this call, especially with Kelly. We used to go out before we had England central contracts to get extra training in. And I know obviously Kelly is the best we've ever produced in this country. So like in terms of doing the football drill, she was always going to beat me. But in my head, when we did the fitness stuff, I was so determined that she wouldn't beat me so I could like win something against her. And I remember like just always doing these running sessions. I used to be knackered, but I was so in my head that Kelly is not going to beat me at fitness.
And I was the opposite. I was so mad because I could never get anywhere near her. Alex's quads are so big, right, in terms of speed and endurance. She would just come away at the last minute, and I'm like this, trying to keep up. It used to really get to me. But I think that's where we work well together in terms of pushing each other to try and be better players.
I think in our time it was, we, like you say, we would have a specific time when we got together as a team, but a lot of the time we would have to go out training on our own, go take some cones onto a field and do some sprints, whether it was with someone that you lived near or not. But you had to kind of, like say, push each other in times outside of the squad as well, or yourself, thinking, well, if I miss today's session, then the other players or my opponents might be doing it, and I'm not going to hit the level. But I think there was always that expectation or demand or this feeling inside you that you thought you had to improve our fitness, and propel the game onto new levels. And if we didn't do it, then we wouldn't be able to get yes, we were winning the league in Arsenal, but from England point of view, we were trying to get to the likes of, Germany and America and Sweden, who were always the countries above us. And yeah, like the girls say, it was always that feeling of pushing each other and having to do stuff extra outside of work or study. A lot of the girls would be going to college or going to work. I remember, Cal, you worked in a post office over Christmas once, didn't you? Doing stuff. We had to
shift.
Yeah, and that's the thing, working around jobs, but training, then getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go. I remember sometimes when me and Kelly shared, when you come back from America, we would have to encourage each other to get up and go out and train. And to be fair, it was always me trying to pull Kelly out of, you say, Kelly, go out, and she'd be like, no, I don't want to do it today, or but like Alex said, Kelly could go on the field and light it up, but there's other players that had to work hard at everything to even reach Kelly on a bad day, well, not even reach Kelly on a bad day. But yeah, and that's the beauty of a team sport, isn't it? How you drive each other and push each other forward and to keep getting better. But certainly that feeling of having to raise standards so the game got to where we needed it to get to in this country.
I've been working hard. I'm coming out of retirement, aren't I, Leah? I'm still so competitive. I'm like, what's your 5K time, Leah? One day. Do I need to be doing it? And she's like,
literally, you text me. Yeah, you text me every week. Like, I've knocked 5 seconds off. I'm like, good. It's getting there. It's getting there.
Speaking of competitiveness, actually, that's a good segue. Leah, Beth and Anna, out of the squad, who is the most competitive?
Kim,
yeah, Kim Little.
Why?
Yeah. I think, Leah, you're up there as well. You can... if a coach is ever reffing, you don't want to be near Leah.
No, true.
She'll have her say.
Coach is glad for COVID at the moment when Leah around.
All right, Leah, I think you take that honour for sure. Last one to the legends, to Kelly, Faye and Alex. Out of your squads, who was the best dresser?
Not me, Alex, I would say.
I think Leanne Sanderson thought she was.
Oh, Leanne, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Leanne.
Dolls and shaves.
Eccentric, I'd say. Maybe not best.
Some of the outfits that she would come out, it was scary, but I can't put myself in that. I was very old school.
I guess if I flip it to the current squad, I guess Leah Williamson is the best dressed person, right? Is that fair to say?
I'm not saying that about myself. I'm not saying nothing.
She's like this, me.
Yeah. I'll say it for you, Leah.
Come on, girls, me. Come on, teammates, me.
Yes, man, I paid you earlier. Come on.
Now, unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to Leah, Beth and Anna fairly shortly. But before we let you guys go, we've got some video questions from some of our young Gunners fans.
Hi, this question is for Alex Scott, and I just wanted to ask who was the hardest player to play against, and which was the hardest team to play against, and why? Bye.
I would say the hardest player to play against. Well, one, it was Kelly Smith in training if she was on the other side. But in a game, I would have to say Marta. I always loved playing up against her, but ultimately she was the best at that time in terms of her skill and how fast she was. And I always knew that I had to be like literally on top of my game playing up against her, which then leads into Maya's second question, that her team in Champions League, when she played for the Swedish side, Umeå, we always knew coming up against her was going to be tough. But as history says, we did go on to win the Champions League against them. So that's a good one.
Okay, thank you for that, Alex. Next question is for Leah.
Hi, my name is Maya. I'm 11 years old and I live in Melbourne, Australia. My question is for Leah. When you were my age and daydreamed about playing for Arsenal, what did you imagine?
I was lucky. I imagined exactly what actually happened. I made it into the first team when there was still enough legends playing to literally blow my mind. So literally, I am so lucky that the game grew at such a good rate, because I used to picture myself playing at Wembley with Arsenal at the Emirates, which is I'm yet to do, but it's definitely a possibility. And on the biggest stages, with an Arsenal badge on my chest. So yeah, I've been very lucky that a lot of what I imagined back then has actually come true. And winning an FA Cup final at Wembley is a pretty special moment, and yeah, definitely one I'd imagined a lot when I was younger.
Anna, I have a question for you. This one's from Bradley. He asked, how much did you enjoy the 2017 Spring Series?
The Spring Series was an amazing experience for me, because I just basically in like January leading up to it just got my shot with the first team, and I think I grabbed it with both hands and I really enjoyed it. I had Alex beside me coaching me throughout it, and I think I was very grateful for having such an experienced player to my right to help me through that. But yeah, no, I was so thankful for that opportunity to play in the Spring Series.
Beth, this is a question from Bradley. He says, was there a specific moment you realised as a team that you would or could actually win the WSL in 2019?
Yeah, I think the way we started that season off probably set us in good stead. And, I think we probably then started to have the belief that we were going to win it. And then, some games we didn't play our best, but we still won them. And then I think at that point, that's when we started to know, what, we can win this. And yeah, we ended up winning it in style at Brighton in the end. And then obviously topped it off with a win against Man City as the last game. So it was quite a nice way to do it.
Kelly, question for you. This is from George. What is the best goal you have ever scored?
The first goal that springs to my mind was playing for England. It was against Russia in the 2013 European Championship.
2009.
Was it 2009?
Yeah.
God, May remembers.
I remember.
Yeah. Just about to be knocked out until Kelly got up with that spectacular goal.
From the halfway line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the goalkeeper had the ball in her hand and she kicked it out. And I just remember I was just on the halfway line at the top of the D, and I just popped the ball back up and just volleyed it straight back over her head. It was all very instinctive and quick thinking. And I needed the power of my leg to do that. So, yeah, I just remember we were 2-0 down. Was that right?
Yeah.
Hey, Alex? 2-0 down, going out of the Euros. And, I produced that moment of magic. And that's probably the best goal that I've ever scored.
Faye, question for you. This is from Layla. She asked, looking back on your career, what would you say is your biggest achievement?
I feel fortunate to have had quite a lot, won quite a lot of trophies with Arsenal. But I would say probably our first treble in 2001. That obviously it hadn't really been done before in the women's game. So to win it, all 3 trophies in 1 year was, for the first time, was quite special. And then I think also the Champions League for the club to be the first English team to win it in 2007 and win the quadruple that year was so special. And just to be part of a club and a team that did that.
Thanks so much to Leah Williamson, Beth Mead and Anna Patton for joining the chat and sharing your experience as well and your stories. It's been really, really good fun. Good luck for the rest of the WSL season, and we will see you soon. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Arsenal Women's Roundtable in association with MasterCard. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Batson, and if you've just joined us, where have you been? Because I am here with the Arsenal legends, Kelly Smith, Faye White and Alex Scott. Now, we're going to broaden out our conversation about the women's game and hear the legends talk about their personal stories as well. So let's talk about the growth of the game, particularly in the WSL. I want to talk about sacrifice. Kelly, I'm going to come to you first about this one. And you probably, all 3 of you have actually got so many stories you can talk about this. What did you have to give up to make your dream happen, Kelly?
My life. No, I'm just kidding. What did I have to give up? I had to give up a lot of my social gatherings with friends and family. I missed a lot of functions, a lot of birthdays, a lot of weddings, a lot of holidays, because I put my football first. I didn't want to miss games. So I would say that was probably the biggest sacrifice that springs to my mind, about, just wanting to be present all the time. I couldn't go to a birthday party. I couldn't stay out late. I wanted to be back home in bed, ready, prepping for training or for a game the next day. But for me, it really wasn't a sacrifice, because I loved doing what I do. I had to do everything possible to make sure that my mind was ready and my body was ready for training and games.
Faye, you talked earlier about having to make ends meet. Can you talk about the jobs that you had to manage alongside your training?
Yeah, well, when I first joined Arsenal, I was actually a fitness instructor. So I would often do an early shift from 6 a.m. to about 2:30, I think it was, in the gym, motivating other people or doing spin bike classes, that kind of thing. And then obviously that was full-time work. And then I would have to get on the train to get up to Arsenal and Highbury to do training. It's normally on a Tuesday or a Thursday evening, and then we would train again on a Sunday, but that would be at the Arsenal training ground or out on a field somewhere. It was, on those training nights, having a full day at work, getting on the train for 2 hours or so, getting to train 8 till 10 it was, getting home train another 2 hours back, getting home at midnight to wake up at 6 o'clock the next morning to go back into work. And that was obviously when I first joined in 96, when I was a young 17, 18-year-old. But then I was fortunate later on that I started to work for Arsenal Football Club as a development officer, going into schools to talk to them about, to young kids, try and get more girls involved in playing, make them feel more comfortable about playing football at school, and also to let them know that there was an Arsenal team in their local area where they could go and watch, top international players playing, and just spread the message really about encouraging young girls and trying to be a role model, which I think for me was the biggest kind of accolade or part of the role, I think, that I enjoyed. And it was about, being that person that people could look up to say it's possible, you can do this. And it might not be easy, because these are the kind of things that all us players have to manage. There's lots of girls that would work in jobs or studying around playing and training, and traveling to go to away matches at the weekends, or travel away if you played for the international teams as well. So it was quite a juggle. When you think, now you look at the professional game and you think, God, we managed to achieve what we did with only a couple of, twice a week touching the ball in the first, few years of joining the club, until we started to train a bit more regularly ourselves outside of the club as well on our own, because we had the central contracts with England that allowed us to have that time where we could reduce down to part-time work. And then, so we didn't get a lot of rest time. You'd either be traveling or get in bed late, and you do think what you could possibly have achieved towards maybe the last few years of my career. We're starting to get there, but we weren't anywhere near what the players are doing now, where literally everything is geared around putting on their best performances. So you do kind of sometimes wonder, but just how it would have been, and what experience how amazing that would have been. But I think it was good to see the transition from the time that myself, Kelly and Alex started playing the game to bring it up to where it got to now. I think that's the biggest difference you will see in the women's game. Now the girls are professional. It's those little tweaks that they can make to take it on to the next level. But there was a lot of juggling, wasn't there? A lot of things that we had to do, different parts of our life that we had to try and keep going, as well as trying to be top international footballers. And we had to have that mindset to be a professional, even though we weren't getting paid to be able to get it to there, to get people to want to watch it. And we had to view, I think that was my message really, we have to view ourselves as professional, do everything professional in our life, even though we're not getting paid for it, to be able to then warrant it. If we don't believe in do it, then why should we be given it, it was a juggling act, but it was still a great experience.
Alex, how important is it that the young players that are coming through now are aware of the history, the sacrifice that you had to make, Faye had to make, Kelly had to make, and other players had to make?
It's so important, not just because for them to know who Kelly Smith was or Faye White, but actually know how much hard work has gone into the women's game to get it to where it is now. And it's their responsibility to keep pushing it on, to keep demanding more. And ultimately, like Faye just touched on, that comes down to success on the football pitch as well. Because if you look at the American team, it's not until they started winning World Cups, that's why they then got funding, that's why they went professional, and that's why they're in a position they are now. So ultimately it comes down to you being the ultimate professional that you have, that luxury. You do get to train every day, you do get to concentrate 100% on being the best athlete, the best footballer that you can be in order to be successful for your club and for your national team, to help the game grow in this country, to inspire the ones coming after you.
And speaking of the squads that all three of you played in, who do you think out of your squad will be able to do a job today?
Kelly, for sure. She don't even need to run. Don't worry about running, Kel. Just pick those balls.
Just let her stand on the halfway line and she'll score, whatever end you ask her to. She'll ping it in.
You agree with that, Kelly? You reckon you can still do a job today?
I think my mind certainly does. My brain thinks I could, but my body, that's why I retired. My ankle, I had 2 knee surgeries and ankle surgery towards the latter part of my career. So it was very difficult the last few years, managing my body, managing my time training with the team. I've spent a lot of my time training alone in the gym because of the impact that couldn't happen through my joints. But, I enjoy playing in the odd charity game here and there. They're good fun, but literally I can't move for a week after. So that's where I say, like, my mind thinks I can do it, but my body lets me down now. But you know what? I'm really enjoying seeing the way the game has developed and where it's at right now. I still think we've got a way to go, but just in terms of when we all started out, how it was really, we were wearing men's kits. Now they have women's fitted kits. We were having to pay to play. We had to have to pay a sub fee to the referees and training pitches. Sometimes we were training on such crappy pitches that the ball you'd have to have 2 or 3 touches just to get it under control. Whereas now they're training at the men's training grounds, really good facilities, and just the exposure that it's getting right now. It's just really, to say that I've played a small part in that is just absolutely amazing. And I just love watching the coverage that it gets and seeing all the attention on the women's game now at the World Cup, the Euros, and certainly watching the league games. It's brilliant.
Speaking of attention, actually, you actually make a really good point, because during the pandemic, there was such a discussion about how boys' academies are seen as elite, whereas the girls' academies are still seen as grassroots, when there was talks about ending the season earlier and what should be done about that. What can be done to change that perception that girls' academies are just as elite as boys? Who wants to pick that up?
Do you know what? I'll go for it, because I was sat on the government task force, and it goes back to a question you asked in part 1 about how important it is to have female representation that's speaking on behalf of women's sport, to push it in football, that the people above, when it comes to making those decisions, still see women's football or women's sport as, don't worry about it, as long as we get men's sport up and running, that's the priority. Well, actually it's not, because young girls in school that are wanting to play football, wanting to participate in any sport, that's where you can lose them. And then it's then a whole big vicious circle of, we need to increase participation rates. Well, it's because you just lost them and you were short-sighted and not thinking long-term about the effects that it can have. So it goes back to having those females in the right positions to say, hold up, this is wrong and it's not right.
And of course, Faye, we've been over a year now that fans have not been able to see their teams in stadiums. Do you think that's going to have a big impact when fans are going to be able to come back? Do you think that the numbers will go up, or do you think the numbers could go down?
I'm hoping they will go up. It's almost like they've been starved of it for this long, that people will go, well, let's get out there now. We'll appreciate the fact that we had that freedom to go to any game we wanted. And certainly I do think the women's game is so much more accessible and affordable that, and you're watching a lot of top international from all over the world now in these games. So I do hope that there's still a lot of marketing and right messaging that all the clubs and the FA going to have to do to get the messages out there, because even sometimes it can be harder to find out when the females team is playing as opposed to the men's. So it's getting better, but I do hope that there is that demand where people are seeing it more on telly, certainly, and can get access through BBC, the Red Button, and also like even the FA Player. If in the women's game, if you know where to look, you can find and get the access. But I do hope that there'll actually be a bigger demand, because people will realise, we were so fortunate to be able to go and watch these incredible players and teams playing at the height of the women's game, and it's so affordable to do it. So I would hope for the message is get out there and support the game, and it's only going to keep going to new heights. Yes, there's that issue of, obviously the whole world has been hit probably financially after what we've all been going through the last year, but I think that will make people appreciate that family time. And I do think the women's game, you can take your whole family to go and enjoy it. So let's hope the numbers go up.
Kelly, we know that there's football on the TV already, and we know there's a broadcast deal. How much is this an opportunity for the live coverage to market the game to an even wider audience, because we have international stars in the WSL?
Yeah, it's a massive development in the women's game yet again, to have this unknown. There's all whispers about who it may be, but to have it go globally, to have access worldwide for viewers to watch the women's game, it will be another massive step forward for the women's game. For me, the women's Super League is probably the best league in the world. If it's not now, it will be the next few years. So many top world-class players are now playing in this league, all top European players. Everybody, all the talk now, it used to be America. We'd go to America to play because that's where the big money is, the big stars. Now it's England. You've got so many top players want to come here and develop their game and grow it. So for this big company to come on and broadcast it's going to be phenomenal. It's another game-changing moment within the women's game. I think now is the right time. We've obviously got the Olympics, and then it's the Euros on home soil. So it just seems like there's all this good stuff talk around the women's game, and it's keeping it at the forefront of people's minds. It's having accessibility is key to it, to put on the TV and you see a women's game, and it's absolutely brilliant.
And Faye, look, we know that women's football can stand on its own. How can smaller, less high-profile brands see the potential in women's football?
Well, I think it's just the thought of the female players and the role models, and the fact that there are, I think Alex touched on it earlier, that young players young females at schools that, want people to look up to, really. They need it almost, especially in the kind of reality world TV and that we get. We do want to keep pushing sports and sports people as good role models for people to look up to. So certainly, there's other companies that and sponsorship opportunities, I believe, because we know the stories that go on in the women's games, as far as the role models and what they do to play there and their passions for sport. And certainly within football, we've heard a few of them today and stuff. So I think it's a good opportunity, and I don't see why women's sport should be devalued and seen as a second-class sport, where it is so often, unfortunately. So there's still lots of work to be done, but there are great role models and opportunities, I think, for sponsors out there to kind of latch on and hopefully take it on to a kind of new level.
And one of those opportunities, of course, is the European Championships coming in 2022. Alex, I'll come to you for this one. The Arsenal team, they've got a few international players in their team. Let's focus on the Netherlands very quickly. Danielle van der Donk, of course. Jill Roord, Miedema. Has England got something to worry about?
Well, I suppose the Arsenal players will say we know their strengths because we train with them day in and day out. Leah will be like, I know how to stop Viv. Not that you can, because she'll pop up somewhere else and score a goal. But no, that's what makes the WSL so exciting, that all those top international players that we get to see them live, but even at the top level, for the Euros, for that to be held here is once again, like Kelly said, another step forward. And the England team, the Lionesses, need to be going into that, knowing the responsibilities they have. But that is such a big moment. We were lucky back in 2005, we had it. And yeah, even though we didn't progress and it was the way we wanted to go, but for us to get 30,000 people turning up to see us was huge then. And it breakout stars like Karen Carney scoring in the way that she did. So it's another monumental moment for women's football for having the Euros.
And Faye, you know, looking at the England team within the Arsenal setup, of course, we've got, you know, Beth Mead, for example, Lotte Wubben-Moy potentially, Anna Patton potentially, Leah Williamson potentially. This is a really exciting time for Arsenal players to potentially make their mark in the England team.
Yeah, I think so, because they're, you know, really young players that have got a bright future ahead. I mean, I think all Arsenal over the years have always had a good stream of international players, England players, you know, going through onto high levels and playing regularly and for longevity as well for England. So those players you mentioned definitely have that within their sights, I'm sure, and should do. Yes, the competition now is, you know, for places is getting fierce across all teams. But certainly, no, yeah, what an amazing kind of opportunity to play in a home Euros. Yes, we've all felt it. We know what that was like, but it's very different times now. You know, the exposure that tournament will get, I'm sure, you know, in this country. But yeah, those, you know, Leah, you know, future captain without question. You know, and I remember going to watch some academy or centre of excellence games when I was still playing. And then when I retired, was still working for the club, to go and watch the young players coming through. They always had a good kind of feeder system to get, you know, the next crop of talent coming through. And yeah, hopefully that can continue for many years. But yeah, it's exciting times for the club.
And let's not forget Jordan Nobbs as well, and the part that she could potentially play within the England setup. It's just amazing the quality that Arsenal have in terms, you know, looking forward to the Euros for 2022. And just on coaching, Kelly, for you, I know coaching was something that you did do in the past and you've had to put a pause on it. Is that right? Are you looking to go back into it at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I was on my A license and then got pregnant. So I think when in the bigger scale of things, I always wanted to come back to coaching, but I didn't realize what having a baby would do to my mental state. I just wanted to be at home and raising him. And now I've got another one, Lucia. So I've got two very young kids. So for me, I want to be a stay-at-home mum at the minute. I don't want to be missing out on these little milestones. I do want to pick it up again when they go to school. It'll give me more time. But like with football, as a player, you have to be 100% dedicated and live and breathe being a footballer. And I feel like you have to do that as a coach or as a manager. And right now, at this point in my life, I can't do that. So I do want to get back into it eventually. I am missing it. I'm missing, like everybody, not going into live stadiums and watching the games. So yeah, eventually in a few years, I want to get back with my boots on the pitch and coaching. And I just miss the game so much, really. So yeah, I do want to get back into it.
And then by the time a few years comes around, Kelly would have coached her too. There'd be clubs lining up, ready to sign them up anyway.
I'd love for them to play for Arsenal. I'd love it. It's my dream.
That'd be amazing.
No pressure on them then. I live up to mum.
I was going to say,
standards.
Faye, your boys, would you love them to play for Arsenal one day if they fancy doing that?
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't. You don't want to be that mum that, you know, pushes them to have to. My eldest is not loving it at the moment. And he did say, I said, what do you want to be when you're older? And he said, well, not a footballer because I don't want to get injured. So I was like, oh no. What? You know, I've told him about the knees and the nose and mummy, why are you wearing that mask in that game? And, you know, so he probably is, I've put him off that. But my youngest is literally kicking, throwing, catching a ball at 4 better than I think I've ever done it. So I'm pretty, his balance and his coordination, my youngest, I've got high hopes for him. But again, don't want to be that pushy mum, put too much pressure on them. But yeah, no, it would be great if they could put on the shirt. What a proud moment that would be. It would be unbelievable.
And Alex, you'll continue being a mentor. I love the relationship that you have between you and Leah.
Yeah, for me, that's always been a big part of me, because I just always wanted someone to take a chance. I know from where I've come from, and I'm so grateful for that. And so I always think it's a huge thing to keep paying it forward and help the others coming through. So it's something that's close to my heart and something that I'll always continue to do.
Well, that brings to the end our Women's Football Roundtable on the Arsenal and MasterCard channels. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to our brilliant roundtable guests, Leah Williamson, Beth Mead, Anna Patton, Kelly Smith, Faye White and Alex Scott. Big thanks to everybody for watching, asking questions and contributing. And finally, huge thanks to MasterCard, without whom it wouldn't have been possible to put on this fantastic round table. I've been Anne-Marie Batson. Thanks for your company. Take care and we'll see you soon. Bye.